How to be a good mother. Remember, you're both finally home. It doesn't matter that you couldn't see your daughter's face after the emergency C-section. The nurses took away her contact lenses. The pediatricians whisked her away to the neonatal intensive care unit. The surgeons sewed up your abdomen, and you couldn't move even if the anesthesia hadn't cut off all sensation below the neck. Hours later, when you went to her incubator, your daughter's eyes were covered with pads as protection from the billy lights needed to treat jaundice. Her nose and mouth was covered by a CPAP mask to help her breathe. You saw her face weeks later. Remember, now she's finally home. Don't feel guilty, inadequate, alienated. You have more important things to worry about. You're an inexperienced mother. She's an atypical child. She can't suck from a breast. She struggles to suck from a bottle. She throws up what little milk she can swallow. She was 6 pounds when you brought her home. She's not growing. Remember not to yell at the well-meaning friends and mother-in-laws and doulas who lecture on feeding on demand and letting her signal when she wants to eat. They mean well. Even as their eyes glaze in confusion, or they look away, or they lecture you again about feeding on demand after you explain, again, that she can't coordinate breathing with swallowing, that every swallow is as if she's choking, that she eats the bare minimum she can to survive and throws up most of that because she was born 3 months early, weighing 1 pound, 11 ounces, and her gut just isn't ready. She was throwing up all the time in the hospital, too. And if you fed her on demand, she'd starve. Forget your longing to breastfeed. Remember as you sit with your breasts clamped to the medulla pump 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day for 30 or 40 minutes a session, that what's important is the breast milk rich with your immunities that will go into the bottles that she can barely suck to become the food she throws up. Not the closeness of her skin, not her eyes locked on yours. Not the two of you, quiet, together. Not the months in the hospital where the heart rate and oxygen monitors went off all the time and nurses walked in whenever they wanted. There are other ways to bond. Remember that after a nasogastral feeding tube is placed down her nose to run down her throat, down her esophagus, into her stomach, and her face is covered with tape so she can't pull out the tube. She pulls it out anyway. You put it back down her nose. She screams. She pulls it out again. You put it back again. She vomits so hard the tube is pushed out again. You put it back again and put more tape until half her face is covered with tape and the tubes come out again. Remember those other ways of bonding when that tube is replaced with a surgically implanted gastro tube that puts milk directly into her stomach. Remember your priorities. Her health. Her growth. Your marriage rent with arguments and isolation. You give up your business. Your husband works 1/4 time to keep the health insurance. You go on food stamps and WIC and burn up savings to stay home and take care of your daughter who can handle small amounts of food throughout the day and night, but not so much food at any single time that she throws up. But she does that anyway. She throws up so much she becomes orally averse and won't let food or water near her mouth. Remember, there are other ways of bonding. Remember this when you buy high-necked shirts at Goodwill for $2.50 to wear when you hold her and she vomits up all the breast milk you pumped. Remember, this won't last forever. And it doesn't. Just 4 years. Remember, you don't have it so bad. She's not blind, and she's not deaf, and she's not deaf-blind, and she's not autistic from her premature birth, and her lungs work fine, and her intestines weren't rotted away from massive infections, and she didn't need heart surgery, and she didn't need shunts to drain fluid off because she didn't have hemorrhages in her brain. Plenty of parents have it worse. Remember to be grateful. Remember to be quiet. You'll meet the parents who have it worse. What will you say then? Remember that there will be many things you don't want to learn. You have to learn them to be a good mother. To be a good mother is to learn when you're being lied to. Remember this when the nurses nod sympathetically and murmurs, and says no. Remember, nurses don't provide patient care. Nurses provide doctor care. The care the doctor needs is to not be bothered by the patient. The doctor practices evidence-based medicine, and according to the studies, your child will respond to this treatment in a certain way and that medication at a certain time. If she doesn't, there's nothing the doctor can say. See another specialist. Remember to look away when a social worker smiles at you and tilts her head agreeably and looks you right in the eyes. Remember, staring is a sign of dominance. And in the friendliest of voices, orders you to shut up or go away or do as you're told, because she knows more than you do about what's good for you. Remember not to blink. Remember to keep your voice steady when you're in the pre-op room before your daughter's next surgery and you tell the doctor that she's not understanding your child. Your child doesn't fall within the statistical results of evidence-based medicine, and there are other studies you've read, other parents you've talked to, other reasons why you're concerned. Remember to look at the doctor. Remember to speak to the doctor. Remember not to respond to the nurse who calls out, "You sound scared. You sound worried. It's so hard, isn't it? How are you feeling?" Remember the lives of others. The film about life in East Germany before the fall of the Berlin Wall. Remember how the Stasi conduct their interrogations. This same question, again and 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 again. The person breaks. The truth is told. Learn to ask the pediatric neurologists, the gastrointestinal specialists, the social workers, the feeding specialists, the surgeons, the nurses, the same question again and 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 again. Remember that the doctors and educational psychologists and other specialists will talk to your PhD husband as a peer and ignore you, even though you're coordinating the care and doing the home-based therapies and researching the techniques they don't want you to know about and talking to other parents about what really needs to happen. Let your husband ask the questions. Take notes and smile and listen and plan what you'll do next. Remember to adjust your priorities. The book you're trying to write, the degree you're trying to finish, the other child who needs your time and love and attention, the other child you'd love to have but can't with all this chaos and confusion. Remember, it's okay to want your life back. The life that made sense. The life of reading novels and meeting friends and wandering Saturday afternoon yard sales and other small graces of daily freedom. Don't mourn that old life when you drive your daughter to the occupational therapist, the developmental pediatrician, the pediatric ophthalmologist, when you're sitting in the cramped waiting rooms filled with other mothers talking, but you're trying to write your book or finish a job for a client or balance a checkbook, but you have to bring your daughter to gymnastics so she can develop balance and coordination, and to kinder music so she can build her speech skills by singing. And your daughter needs to learn that other kids can sing the alphabet song and recite the letters. She can't sing the alphabet song. She can't recite the letters. Those wonderful teachers at the developmental preschool say, don't rush, don't worry. Some kids get their letters late, and the teachers are so dedicated and skilled that your daughter is doing great, better than you could have hoped. But something is wrong. You don't know what? You don't know that in a few years, dyslexia will join the list of your daughter's diagnoses. Remember to trust what you don't know. Remember to find other parents who are doing it also. Find listservs for parents of preemies, for parents of kids on feeding tubes, for parents of kids who have sensory issues or chronic constipation or medical conditions you never knew existed until now it seems like every child everywhere has that condition. Find the Facebook groups. Find out what a blenderized diet is and how it stops vomiting in kids with G-tubes and how thick the blend really needs to be to stop the vomiting. Get other parents' blend recipes with wild salmon, organic spinach, quinoa, and cod liver oil. Get rid of the clinic dietitian's recipes where fiber comes from the crust of white bread. Find out from parents which occupational therapists do hunger-based weans. Don't be surprised to learn the occupational therapist who does this works in the same hospital, in the same department, possibly even shares the same office as the occupational therapist who said that no one does hunger-based weans. Remember, when the insurance company only provides 10 feeding syringes a month and the hospital says there's nothing to be done but buy the other 20 you need each month at full and expensive price at the medical supply store, ask what other parents do. They'll tell you how to get veterinary syringes that work great and last forever and cost nearly nothing. Find out from other parents how individual education plans work and what the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act says and what you need to say to get your child into a developmental preschool and what the school district has to do, not just what they're willing to do. Remember, a good mother kicks ass. You'll be told you're better. Angry. Don't you know when people are trying to help you? You're a bitch. A helicopter parent. Remember, a good mother kicks ass. Remember this when you're told you're overprotective. Remember this when a doctor says not to love your daughter so much because it will only hurt her. Remember this when a speech-language pathologist tells you to stop trying so hard and just enjoy your daughter. Remember you're not making any of this up. Remember that you will be blessed to meet brilliant and compassionate people, doctors, rehabilitative specialists, nurses, and so many others who kick their organization's ass or go into private practice or just do the best they can even when they'd rather call it a day, and who believe that every child has the right to go beyond what's expected and past what's thought possible. They will tell you the truth. They will tell you the truth you may not want to hear. Remember one truth you must never forget. The more aggressive the parent in advocating and securing services, the better the kid does. Remember all of this. Remember more than this. The day will come when it's time to forget. The day she goes into the kitchen and eats. The day she runs down a hall and turns a corner and doesn't lose her balance. Doesn't spin like a top. Doesn't crash into a wall. The day you take the foam padding off the walls. The day she speaks in sentences instead of smiling and saying, and you know. The day she picks up a book and reads on her own. The day she gets 100% on a math test and is invited to join Star League at gymnastics, and your husband starts believing she can go to college. Remember these days. Remember the ones that came before. Remember you've left one country for another. First you lost your native language, then you learned to speak in a new tongue, and now you must discover still new words. You'll see the surgical scars others think are weird birthmarks. You'll notice the stumble in such an active girl. You'll know why she's so petite. All of this and more will be a history invisible to others. Remember not to mention it. You don't want other parents and teachers and strangers stereotyping your child after all you've been through to make sure that she is just another kid. A good mother talks about it only to parents who have traversed that invisible terrain. Remember not to say too much. Remember, they probably had it worse, much worse. In the silence of this new land, there will be so much you can finally forget. Remember not to forget.